Hello, and thank you for joining part 2 of harassment training and how to recognize and report harassment. Part 2 consists of the leader's role in preventing harassment. From a leader's perspective, you want to establish, communicate, and model these expectations. You need to monitor the work environment, so walk around, observe things that are happening, listen to what's going on. Of course, reinforcement of the policy, take corrective action where necessary. So if harassing behaviors are taking place, we need to make sure we're dealing with them. Investigations, so get all the facts. Rumor and retaliation control. We want to prevent any of the rumor mill from taking place. If it takes place, put a stop to it immediately. If there's any evidence of retaliation towards someone for either filing a harassment complaint or being a witness in a harassment complaint, make sure that we're putting a stop to that retaliating type of activity, whether it's comments, withholding of work, adding on additional work. It could be different forms, but prevent that, stop it from happening. And of course, don't do it yourself. You want to make sure that you build teams who respect each other. Respond to employee reports. So take the report seriously, all reports seriously. We may find that that there's no merit to them or no basis after we do the investigation, but we want to make sure that we take the reports themselves seriously. Find a place to discuss the situation in confidence. We never want to take the information or put an employee in a situation where they feel like they can't speak freely. It'll prevent them from giving us all the information or ever coming to us again. Gather the basic facts. So who did what to who by when. Get all of the details. The more details we have, the better able we are to actually fully and effectively investigate the complaint. Notify HR and or senior management, depending on who you're reporting to, immediately when you've been made aware of a complaint of harassment. And then jointly plan out investigation steps and what you're going to do next with those individuals, whether that's HR, senior management, or whoever that is. When you conduct your investigation, you want to make sure that you do it promptly. Don't let a lot of time pass. Keep it relatively short in term, within a day or two, if not immediately, if at all possible. Be fair and thorough in the investigation. You want to make sure and interview witnesses, so anybody who observed it, you want to make sure and get those witness statements. If you find in the investigation that they weren't a witness to, we indicate that it's hearsay, they heard someone else say it, etc. We want to make sure that we're getting all of the detailed facts. We don't want third-party hearsay. Keep an open mind as you go through the investigation. Don't form an opinion about it until you've gotten all of the facts. Keep all of the information as confidential as possible, knowing that, of course, sometimes we have to talk with other individuals about the situation, but only those that have a relevant need to know and to be involved. Document everything and retain it. You want to keep it in a separate file from the employee's file, but retain it. It needs to be kept for the employer's records in case the individual comes back at a later date and says that nothing was done, it wasn't fairly investigated, etc. We have proof that the appropriate steps took place. Consider taking interim action. So if it's severe or perverse in nature, the conduct is such that you really need to remove the individual from the work environment, we may relieve that individual of their responsibilities while the investigation takes place. So if we have to take interim action, we do so, but be fair and consistent in how we do that. And then make sure once we've got all of the facts, everything's in and we've reviewed everything, if we need to go back and get additional comments from someone, clarify things, then we reach a conclusion based on our findings. The conclusion may be that there isn't enough information to make a conclusion, or it may be that both parties were at fault, or it could be that there definitely is a harasser and someone being harassed or harassee. Communicate the decision. So here's what we found, here's what's going to happen. And then follow up with both parties after the fact, a week down the road, 30 days down the road, to make sure that everything is still okay, that nothing is happening, that there's no retaliation taking place. Emphasize the no retaliation factor with both individuals, that they shouldn't be experiencing it and they shouldn't be doing it. I mean, you as leaders, you're held to a higher standard by your employees. That's why you're in the position you're in. So you need to keep that in mind. You set a tone of mutual respect and common courtesy. They're going to follow your lead. So make sure that you are not the one doing the harassing, and that you're preventing it, that we take a no-tolerance stance toward that type of behavior. Don't date or pursue any kind of sexual relations with employees who report directly to you. It just creates an environment where it is difficult to maintain those lines. So you avoid that. Create rapport with your employees so that they're comfortable coming to you with complaints and issues and concerns. If they're not comfortable talking to you, they're not going to come to you. And then that type of behavior is going to go on and get more extreme and at some point cause us some grief. And then, of course, protect the employee's privacy. Keep those conversations in private. Don't share the information even after the investigation has been done with anyone who doesn't have a need to know. Keep it as confidential as possible. If we share information that we shouldn't and it gets out there, those employees are not going to come to us again. So it kind of creates a bad environment. So protect the employee's privacy. Of course, maintain mutual respect. Encourage your employees to appreciate and respect each other as individuals. Value the differences in their backgrounds and their opinions, because it helps us be a better team. So help your employees value those differences. In your harassment prevention efforts, don't assume that behavior is okay just because no one has complained. Monitor your work environment. Walk around. Take a look at things. Listen to what's being said. We don't want to just make assumptions. I mean, only allow employees to say and do things that are appropriate and enforce that policy. I mean, there are many states and local governments that have statutes or codes that protect against a slew of different forms of discrimination and therefore harassment or those harassing behaviors. In fact, cases of note, a court in Florida actually held that fat jokes directed at an obese employee violated the ADA laws. A New Jersey court found that a person could bring a claim for disability or disability harassment based upon 2 remarks made about this person's diabetic conditions. Status as a veteran. A court has held that a federal law prohibits veteran status harassment. Another example goes on to include, of course, sexual orientation or marital status. The courts in particular and jurisdictions have found that harassment on the basis of sexual orientation or marital status is protected by many states and local statutes or codes. And of course, that harassment is found to be illegal. Other examples go on to include gender identification, political beliefs, criminal history, occupation or source of income harassment, citizenship status, smoker versus non-smoker. They can take many forms. I mean, so the takeaway from this is that it should be a reminder that personal attacks in any kind, of any form, or in any content or nature, it's just not acceptable. So we want to make sure that we're not allowing it within our work environment. We want to make sure that we are harassing. We're enforcing our harassment policies. So know what is expected, and make sure that your employees know what is expected. Enforce and reinforce those expectations, and of course, let the punishment fit the offense. So if it's minor, we have a conversation, remind them of the policy and the need to follow the policy, the risk that they're putting themselves in by continuing that type of behavior, versus someone who has physically lashed out and hit someone in the workforce. That may be suspension, it may be termination. So let the punishment fit the offense. In summary, know what harassment is, respond quickly to the potential harassing situations, coach your employees to follow policy and report the issues. If they're not coming to us, we're putting the business at risk. Report all complaints to human resources and or senior management. Coach your employees to respect each other for their differences and their similarities. And then, of course, enforce no retaliation. We won't allow it to take place, and if it does take place, we'll discipline based on that. For you leaders, you need to, in addition to this recording, have also watched part 1 of the recording for harassment, because that goes through what harassment looks like. That's what your employees are going to be observing. So make sure that you're watching that as well as this recording. I thank you for your time.